platforms, XYZ, and we think this kind of content would be the best. And that's all based on you, right? We want to kind of talk to you, figure you out. We'll go in there and set up the channels that need to be set up. If they're already channels set up, we'll optimize them. And then we'll put together sort of like a tools and templates kit that you can use to run your social media.
Welcome, Joel. And we got to talk to, well, we didn't get to really to talk to Joel. He was speaking at the Book Ninja Summit 2 weeks ago now, and he got to tell us a little bit about Launch My Book, which he founded back in 2013. And Joel is a writer by training with a background in digital marketing. And Launch My Book basically is a company that helps authors publish, launch, and promote their books. And I don't want to say it's a traditional publishing company. It's more kind of a boutique, but I'll let Joel kind of talk about that and what he considers Launch My Book to be, because it's not a traditional publishing company. But Joel, how's everything going?
Oh, it's going fabulous. And thank you for having me. It's nice. I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah, no, and it was awesome. I had never even heard of Launch My Book until you stopped by the Book Ninja Summit and sponsored the Book Ninja Summit, which was amazing. So could you just give us a little bit of background about yourself regarding the publishing space and how you got into writing and marketing and book publishing?
Yeah, so I guess in a past life, I started a digital marketing company with a friend of mine. But then I got an opportunity to go become a writer, which is sort of like always a lifelong passion for me. Started writing for a magazine. And so I kind of have a background in both marketing and writing in that way. And at one point back in 2010, I had an opportunity to work on a book launch campaign. I had never done it before. But the magazine I was working for, our editor-in-chief was publishing a book, and we had a publisher and we had a publicist and we had a marketing company lined up. But there needed to be someone sort of on board to run everything. And everyone at the time, I was a millennial. Now, when you call someone a millennial, they're not a millennial, they're Gen Z. But, this is like, 2010. They're like, hey, you know about internet stuff and marketing stuff. Can you just figure all this out? So I work with the publisher and I work with the publicist and I work with the marketing company and did all this stuff. And we had a pretty successful launch for the book. And so the publisher decided to start hiring me to sort of be a freelance consultant on the side.
Nice. I'm curious before you go on, like what exactly you were doing with them. They would come to you and say, how do I do this on this website, or what should we do for social media? What was your kind of
Well,
role?
no, honestly, my original niche was running bestseller campaigns. That's what I learned how to do. I learned how to run like New York Times bestseller campaigns, and this is back in the day when you could you had a little more control over that. These days it's much harder to sort of quote unquote game the system. So what I was working with authentic demand for the book, but then trying to funnel that demand into funnel demand and sales into ways that would optimize chances of making the big weekly list like the New York Times. And
Oh,
so
okay.
when the publisher hired me to do the first book they hired me to do is sort of like a consultant, we put that one on the New York Times. And then I just started getting gigs at that point. And I was a self-titled book launch specialist, which is not a thing. And I would people would come to me and like, hey, can you help me do this? I'm like, sure, I could help figure that out. And we'd agree on a fee and I would kind of do all that stuff. And so this was this is a while ago. And over time I started to learn about self-publishing because, the whole self-publishing thing exploded around that time. And I started helping people learn how to do that. So much of what I've done over the years has been just learning, you know, coming at it almost from the writer side, figuring out how to do stuff, testing it, and then making it a service. And in 2016, my wife decided that she wanted to leave her job and find in fundraising. We were living in New York at the time. She was working for a big nonprofit and helped me turn my little consulting business into an actual company. And so in 2016, we started to offer actual things. Instead of just hiring Joel to help you do stuff, we developed an author website service and a social media service and a podcast launch service and a self-publishing service. And so we've kind of continued in that evolutionary cycle ever since, and become more refined and tried out lots of new things and brought in talented people. And now we have what I would call an author services company where we help everybody do things independently, from publishing to promotion.
So is that what you kind of label the company as, an author services company?
Because if we call ourselves a publishing company, it can be tricky because either we sound
Yeah.
like a traditional publisher or we sound like a hybrid publisher. And I don't want to sound like a hybrid publisher. And we are not a traditional publisher. We help people do things on their own. And we worked with traditionally published people who just need us to help them with some of the promotional stuff. And we also work with people who have chosen to self-publish, and we kind of help make their manuscript a reality.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the direction the industry is going, like even away from smaller publishers. There's still plenty of them out there, but because self-publishing is so much easier and there's so much more accessibility online with self-publishing, companies like this where you can pick and choose like what you need help with are going to be way, way bigger now.
I hope it's moving in that direction because I think the value of hybrid publishing used to be, because you'd be paying, you don't have to go through the selection process. You basically pay someone to publish your book, and a lot of people just choose to go that route for whatever reason, and that's great. But the value of having that hybrid publisher's name attached to your book, I think, is dramatically diminished. Um, and I think most people would just rather have independence.
Yeah.
Have the royalties go directly to them, have everything, even if they don't want to do any of the work and they want to hire people to do the work, they want to have full independence if they've chosen to self-publish. And I think they should.
Yeah. Yeah. And that shift right now to the kind of the creator economy where it's you're your own brand is being
Mhm.
pushed so much nowadays. And just
Right.
everyone is becoming their own brand because it's so much easier to relate with people online because you have TikTok, you have a screen right here. It's like you're talking to them basically.
Right.
So you're able to connect with them that much easier. So yeah, I definitely think this is the way that the industry's gonna go. I mean, who knows? But that's
Well,
kind of
yeah, and I don't know how much you want to dive into this, but I think that I don't think we're ready to make the big leap away from traditional publishing yet, though. I know there's a lot of bellwethers out there saying this is all coming and traditional publishing is dying and there's a new business. I still think that there are certain things that traditional publishing offers that you just cannot get with self-publishing except for rare circumstances. And I think there's a lot of misinformation out there trying to convince people that that's already happened. And um, I think I think people need to be a little more patient and careful when they're thinking
yeah.
about that
Well, I
shift.
mean, if you look
Sense?
at Amazon, you're still seeing half of the categories dominated by the top five publishing companies. So,
And all of distribution, by the way.
yeah,
You want your book to be in a bookstore and you're not willing to go and literally pitch yourself to every bookstore in person. Self-publishing, you're not going to get into a bookstore if you're self-published.
yeah, yeah. Well, before we kind of, I want to learn more about launch my book. Before we get into that, let's talk about a little bit more about marketing. So,
Yeah.
from your experience, what do you think would be like the best way to get into publishing for a new author that's either self-publishing or they're thinking traditional publishing? Where should authors start?
Well, so my annoyingly vague answer to that question is it depends because everybody's different, right? So if you're let's say you're an aspiring fiction author, right? And that's what you want to do. You want to be a fiction author in your career, right? We've recently published books for some people who wrote their first novel in high school, and their parents are helping them self-publish it so that they can sort of get a leg up and start an actual writing career. That's a very different trajectory than someone who is only going to write one book, and and it's a memoir, and they've had this story they've wanted to tell in book form for their whole life, right? There's also people who maybe they're a business consultant and they have this really great approach to helping mid-sized companies maximize the potential of their teams, right? And they have a book about it. So that's a completely different pathway as well. So it's very difficult to give that advice just generally across the board, because every single author, every goal, every genre is different. Um, that said, the way I tend to think about how do you get started? Well, the first thing you need to do is just get started, right? And not come up with the perfect plan. And I tend to be a very philosophical guy, so I like to talk about kind of mindset stuff as much as anything else. Um, in my experience over the years, the only authors who have succeeded in any genre, regardless of their budget or the quality of their book, are those that have been in it for the long game and have been willing to roll up their sleeves and get dirty, right? So the people who hope that if you publish it, if you just get all the Amazon algorithms right and you hire the right people and throw a bunch of money at it, they don't succeed. It's the ones who are willing to get out there and talk to people, find a way to reach your readers. And that's going to be different for everyone. Some people don't like TikTok, but you know what they like to do? They like to talk to people in person. Um, maybe there's a way for you to figure out how to get an in-person book tour. Everybody knows how to do this differently, right? I recently helped someone develop a book proposal for a book on DEI. They're a DEI consultant. They have no followers online, right? So my advice to them wasn't necessarily to try and build an online following because that wasn't their bag, but it was to leverage the speaking gigs and trainings and workshops that they're already engaging in their professional life as a way to move sales. So it's not a one size fits all approach, but you have to get in and start trying stuff. Does that make sense?
That makes 100% sense. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, even from your experience, just getting in there when you were first getting into book marketing and publishing is doing it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the best way to learn is learn by doing. And
Yeah.
I think I heard a quote, I think it was like Seth Rogen or something on a podcast, and he says, the only way you're gonna lose is if you give up, right?
Yeah.
So just keep going and keep learning and keep publishing, and things are going to work out if you're in it for the long term. If, like you said, if it's you're thinking publish this book 6 months, make a bunch of money, go retire in Tahiti and have some pina coladas, that's not going to work out. That's just not how this industry works.
It's not how anything works. This is the
Exactly.
funny thing. And look, I don't mean this to be insulting because I know what it's like to be, because I'm a writer too. I know what it's like to be on both sides of the pen, right? But um no one would ever think that you could not put in your time to a vocation and all of a sudden have radical success just by coming up with the right tricks, right? Like in medicine or in law or in being a teacher. It's just not, no one believes that's true. But then it's so funny when someone steps in and steps into the author space and decides to put on their author hat. People tend to be susceptible to those misperceptions, that somehow you're going to crush it on your first book. You don't have to go through the traditional channels. You know, you're going to be the one exception to the rules, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think now that you're mentioning it, I'm thinking that because it feels like such an untraditional career route where if you're going to be a
Yeah.
lawyer, you do step one, step two, step three, step four, become a
Yeah.
lawyer, become an attorney, because it's so untraditional that people think that there are no steps and they can just go from step one to bestseller.
Right. Exactly. It's like, oh, I can get a PhD in 1 year. Of course I can. I'm
Yeah.
great. Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to be insulting because look, I know what it's like. You know, I feel that way too when I sit down and I think about my writing. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So going back a little bit, because you were talking about how one person you were talking to with the DEI leverage those channels that he's already has. Uh,
yeah, it's two.
are
Yeah, yeah.
are there certain marketing channels for beginners that you would say, hey, you have no experience, you should probably try this out first?
I am so sorry, but I'm going to tell you it depends again.
Hmm.
And it really is. It's so case by case. And you know, um, because I don't think so. I don't think someone can do something that they don't want to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you know, I talk to a lot of people. They'll come to me, you know, it'll be someone in their late 60s or early 70s, and they've read blog posts and seen YouTube videos from book marketing companies that say you really got to be on TikTok right now. TikTok is the hot place for books. And they're like, "Tick what?" And then they think that somehow they have to get into it. Otherwise, there's no chance. And I just don't think that's true. And I don't think that you can force yourself to do something that you don't have some proclivity towards, or something you can't develop a proclivity towards, right? You know, some writers are very comfortable to do video. They're very comfortable, right? That's an easy thing for them to do. They can flip open their phone, open up a laptop, even if they don't really know how to use video social platforms, they know about themselves that they're good at kind of speaking on camera. So that person might be able to build a social media uh, strategy based on video, right? With a little bit of help and a little bit of expertise, because they could get into it, even though if they already aren't. Some people are, they're all written words. So maybe for them, it's something different. Maybe they would want to start writing keyword oriented advice articles based on the themes and based on the thought leadership that defines their book, right? And then maybe that would be the approach that's going to work best for them. It really, you really have to figure out the mediums you're comfortable with and the types of content you're comfortable with when you start the whole marketing thing.
So I'm an author that's coming to you guys. You're
Yep.
gonna say, hey, I say I don't know where to start with marketing. You're gonna tell me what?
I'm going to say, I want to know about you. What's your book? What kind of things do you like to do? Are you comfortable with social media? Do you like video? Do you like writing? What's your budget? Right? How much bandwidth do you have to hustle and DIY things versus do you want to just pay people to do stuff for you? Right? Are you hoping to break even on the royalties in this first book, or are you not? You know, there's so many questions. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know it. I know.
Yeah.
I I know that good content is that which is boiled down to into easily digestible nuggets, but I just don't think the world works that way. So, um, I guess one framing that might help. The way I see book marketing is there's two giant buckets. One is platform and one is promotion. And so I think it's important for people to be investing in both. And so platform is what? Platform is the general, it's kind of like your brand equity, right? How many people know about you and have heard about you, right? In the broadest sense of the term. That might look like Facebook followers and Instagram followers. It might look like LinkedIn connections. It might look like um, the connections you have to influencers or decision makers at companies that might be able, right? That is your reach. That is your ability to reach readers with your book and with your ideas. So that's platform, right? And there's a lot of different ways to build a platform, but you have to build one. You have to find a way to build some kind of platform if you want to actually sell your books. You have to find something. But again, you have to figure out what that means. Then there's promotions. And then promotions I think of as more acute marketing techniques, right? That's going to be like PR blasts, podcast tours, giveaways, Amazon advertising, things where you're doing short blasts where you can be trying to reach specific audiences with your book through different approaches to promoting. And I feel like they all exist in an ecosystem and they feed each other, right? The bigger your platform, the more your promotions are going to have an impact, right? But then you in order to grow your platform, you also need to be running promotions to find new readers. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I mean, there's nothing cut and dry about entrepreneurship when you're going out there, especially when it comes to platform, because platform is kind of about understanding yourself,
yep,
basically, and
it is.
what you like and how you're gonna present yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I did the most amazing. I did an interview recently with the most amazing woman. Uh, Crystalline Sanders Diggs is her name, and she was, and it's, you can see it on our website. We've got the interview up there, and she is a children's book author, totally self-published. She does everything self-published, totally independent, and she quit her day job. Like she's successful. But for her, it all happened because she decided to start writing books based on a tragic event in her family that someone had been sexually abused, a child had been sexually abused in her family. And as part of the healing process, they decided that they were going to write stories and draw pictures, right?
Yeah.
And so out of that became there was this children's book thing. And so she started publishing these children's books. And at first it kind of started off small, but at one point she just made a decision that she was going to use this experience to help other people. And then she decided that she was going to use social media as a way to do it. And so she just started getting really transparent on social media and just talking, getting up there and talking about it and just going out there. And it sparked this explosion for her. It took some time for it to grow, but she started to really get the hang of it. And then her social medias began to grow. And then all of a sudden she started selling books. Right. And so
Yeah.
she found this way. She found her voice. Like you said, she found her author voice, and it wasn't something that she sat down with a marketing team and strategic plan. She kind of followed her muse. She followed what was happening in her life. She followed the passion, and she discovered it, and then she capitalized on it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of authors shy away from. You mentioned just being transparent. Like when you get on social media and you're creating a video, it doesn't have to be a professional video.
Yep.
You can just hold the camera up and talk into it because it's that much more transparent, and
Yeah.
your audience can connect way
Right.
easier when it's you, the real you.
Isn't that amazing? I think that's one of the and again, this is philosophical, but like we as human beings, we all have this rich experience in our lives. We all have some kind of rich experience. And especially if you're writing about something, you definitely have something to write about. And yet we just discount it. We think that somehow we're the only ones, or we think that no one else is going to care. But if you're brave enough just to be authentic, people will resonate with it because the human condition is more universal than it's not. And if you're willing
Yeah.
to be transparent about that, you will resonate with other people. It may not be a million, but imagine, you share something and 200 people around the world really deeply relate to you. That's amazing. That's a starting point for a platform.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's the kind of the rule of 1,000, where if you have a tribe of 1,000 people that are similar to you, then you've got a career there.
Right.
But before we
Right.
get too philosophical, let's bring it back real
Sorry.
quick.
Sorry.
I love
Yeah,
philosophy
I'm an
and getting
amateur
into the
philosopher.
mindset. Oh, you were major in philosophy?
No, I'm an amateur philosopher.
Oh, amateur. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So getting back to kind of launch my book and publishing companies,
Yep.
if I'm looking to publish my book and I don't want to do all self-published, what different companies are out there? What are the different types that I can go to?
So do you mean companies that you would hire as opposed to traditional publishers?
Yeah, so I might not want to be with a large traditional publishing company, but what other options are there if I don't want to do it solely self-published?
Yeah, so there's kind of like I would say there's kind of three general buckets and they overlap a little bit. So you've got hybrid publishing companies on one hand, right? And hybrid publishing companies can be set up slightly different from each other, but they're essentially a company that you pay to do all the work, design your cover, copy editing, design your interior, create an ebook, and get your book set up for distribution, which is most of them are using print on demand technology, just like all the self-publishers are. Um, some of them will sell you on big batch publishing, but that they'll try to get you, they'll make some money by getting you to print a bunch of books and paying them to do it. And then you have to figure out how to fulfill sell the books, right? Um, so those are the hybrid publisher companies, and most of them are set up where they will publish the book under their name. So let's say we're, the Scissor Company, right? I'm the Scissor Publishing Company. So your book is published by Scissor Publishing, and the royalties usually when someone buys a book that was published by the Scissor Publishing Company, the royalties will go to them first, and they'll distribute them to you. They'll give you more royalties than a traditional publisher were, way more. Some of them take a cut, some of them will pass all the royalties through to you, but they go to them first. So that's like a hybrid publishing. And there's all kinds of variations on hybrid publishing. Some of them are totally independent, but a lot of small publishers and even big publishers are starting to develop hybrid publishing arms. So you might go to a Simon and Schuster I forget, Simon and Schuster, I think, has a hybrid publishing company, where you don't get a traditional publishing deal, but you can pay them to get published under their imprint, right? That's a hybrid publisher. And then you've got author services companies like mine, There's another one out there called Book Launchers. I met them at a San Francisco Writers Conference. There's different companies that will do all the work that a hybrid publishing company will, right? Design the cover, do all the copy editing, do all that kind of stuff, get it set up for distribution, but they will set it up under your name with your accounts. So when people buy the book, everything, all the royalties go directly into your bank, right? After the bookseller, Amazon, has taken their cut, right? Um, and then the kind of the third option, if you don't want to DIY everything, is that you can hit the freelancer market, right? And you can find a cover designer and an interior designer and someone to upload all the files for you and that kind of thing. And there are places like Reedsy where you can find all those professionals in one place, and kind of pay them through the site, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those are kind of the options I see for someone who doesn't want to traditionally publish.
And if I've decided, okay, I'm not going to be self-published. I don't really want to DIY it and hire freelancers. I want to go hybrid or kind of what Launch My Book does. What should I look out for? Because I've heard of some horror stories when it comes
Oh
to
yeah. The horror
publishing
stories.
companies. What are the red
This,
flags?
okay, well, that's hilarious. I literally just wrote an article on the red flags you should be looking out for when hiring a publishing company, and I promise you, I didn't write it just to get the answer should always be hire my company, because I want people to find the right fit, and there are good hybrid publishers out there. I just
Hmm.
interviewed one for my website recently, but um, so there's a bunch of things. Look at the fine print. So you need to find. I don't think that it's worth hiring a hybrid publishing company that's not going to give you 100% of the royalties. So make sure that you're getting all the royalties, because if you're going to pay them to do production, you get all the royalties. Now, some people might not agree with that, some hybrid publishing company owners, but that's like one of the red flags that I look at the most. The other thing is look at the actual quality of their work, right? The problem in the self-publishing industry is that there's a lot of low quality work being done for high prices in many cases. And quality matters. It matters so much, especially the cover, right? You can look at a book and you can look at a book that's been quote unquote self-published stereotypically, and it's so obviously self-published because the cover's terrible. And again, I don't mean to be a jerk, but it's just true. There's a lot of low quality work being done out there. So when you're looking at a publishing company, make sure that you're looking at all the titles they've done and decide if you think it's high quality work, especially from the cover perspective. You can also look and see what it looks like on the inside. You can either buy a book that they've published and take a look at what their interior looks like. You can also use the search inside function on Amazon to take a look. So you really want to vet the quality and make sure that they're representing their work correctly. I've been on some hybrid publishers' websites. They'll list books that they didn't even work on. It's crazy. Like I've seen books that were traditionally published by like Simon and Schuster, and they're literally on a hybrid publisher's website. So it's very misrepresentative. So, make sure you go to Amazon and look who the publisher is to make sure it's actually their work. So that's a huge one. Um, another one is beware of inflated expectations, right? This is a big one, and a lot of these companies prey on this. I've been to some of these companies' websites where you'll show up and the contact form to book a consultation with them will say, book a bestseller consultation today. Right from the get-go, they're trying to make you feel special and feel like you're going to have this amazing bestseller. And they're trying to inflate your expectations, right? And they're making big promises that seem fishy. Most people's spidey senses go off when they hear that thing. So listen to your spidey senses. So that's a huge one. Another one to really look out for is what kind of customer service are they going to have? And there's a couple ways you can tell that. So one of them is, are they getting back to you quickly? And is it a human or is it a chat bot? Right? Like a lot of these companies are set up at a massive scale, right? They're trying to take, as many businesses do, they're trying to take everything to scale because the more clients they can bring in with the least amount of resources is the higher the profit margins. But I'm not saying that scale always leads to lower quality and lower customer service, but it often does. It creates the conditions for that to happen. So look for signs of that. If there's a chat bot if there's a chat, like a live chat on a publishing website, I would never, ever work with them. They're going to be way too big. That's a company that's going to take 4 months to get back to your emails because they're too big. Those customer service reps that, that are supposed to be your book expert who's going to guide you through the process are working on like 200 other books probably. And so you're not going to get the kind of quality you deserve or the kind of customer service. So you really want to look at that as well. A new one that I learned after I published this article on Jane Friedman's website about the red flags, there were people sharing their own red flags, which is super cool. And so one of the ones I learned about that my company needs to do now is look for industry approval. So like I met the CraveBooks folks at the Independent Book Publishers Association conference in Denver. They have a membership, right? Where companies need to be part of their membership, and you can get that stamp of approval. You can get that seal on your website to show that this is a legit company. They're part of a publishing community. There's another one, and I forget what they're called. It's some kind of independent writers alliance that'll actually
Yeah.
vet companies. We're going through the process right now we want to have that for our website as well. They'll actually vet your company and say you have qualified by our criteria as a legit company that people can trust. That's new in the industry, and I think it's important, which is why we just found out about this, so we want to start doing it. Because there are so many unscrupulous companies.
Yeah.
And there are probably many more, but those are the ones that are most top of mind to me.
Yeah, I know the first thing I actually did like an author work group when I first published my first children's book. And the first thing was like, here's this $25,000 horror story. Be careful if you're going to go publish with a
Oh yeah.
hybrid publisher. So,
This is amazing. This is the weirdest thing that has started to happen to us in the last 2 years. We're getting people who come to us who already paid a hybrid publisher to do all the work for them. The service was so bad that they come to us and say, can we pay you just to publish it under our own name? It's probably happened with 4 different authors in the last 2 years, which to me is an uncanny number.
yeah,
Why
yeah,
it shouldn't be happening, but it is.
yeah.
So
But there are good hybrid publishing companies out there. My friend
there
just
are.
published her book, and I was kind of like, I've never heard of this publisher. And then she showed me the cover, and they did the cover, and I was like, wow, this is actually really good.
Yep.
So
No, there are
there's
great ones.
definitely good and bad out there. You just need to be careful. And so I decide that looking at launch my book, what sets you guys apart from the rest of the crowd?
Oh, well, so 3 things, and so it's very top of mind because we talk about this a lot on my team. One of them is that we're honest. Honesty is our 100% policy. So I'm never going to tell you, I'm not going to allow any expectations to be inflated if I can help it. I like to tell people in the first call, you are not going to make your money back on this just through royalties. That's very important to me. I don't like anyone to think that something's going to work that isn't, or at least is going to work to a degree that it just won't. So honesty is really big for us. Quality is huge. So we are all about, especially on the publishing side, we want to self-publish books in a way that don't look self-published. So and I know that we're not the only ones who do this, right? I know there's other, like you said, your friend, great cover, great quality. There's other companies that definitely invest in quality, but that is something that I would think probably makes us unique-ish in the marketplace because we care so much about quality. And then for us, similar to the story I was telling you earlier, it's customer service. Our clients have our phone numbers, right? We probably spend too much time talking to them from a purely capitalist, business mindset. But we do this because we love it. We really, really, really value the love and care that it took people to write their books. And so we want to build relationships with our authors that have that same spirit. So we set ourselves up that way. Oh, and
And
I guess yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead and go ahead. I was going to touch on something else.
Well, I guess the only other thing, I said there was 3, but the fourth one, which is related to the honest thing, is we really care about education and empowerment. So, um, I I don't like to do the thing where sign up for my thing and I'll tell you the answer. You know what I mean? Like, I want to tell everybody, I want everybody to know how to do everything themselves because I know that some people, and I would love it if everybody could 100% DIY, right? But I know that not everybody's going to be able to. So we like to educate and empower people to do as much as they can on their own, and then they'll hire us or someone like us to help them do the things that they can't.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people out there that just want to write their book and just like, hey, do this for me. I write,
Right.
you do everything else. I don't want to deal with it. But I do
True.
think if you are an author out there looking to publish a book, you should learn kind of the craft and understand basically the reasons behind why it's not selling or it is selling, and
Right.
it just helps gives you a better idea for when you are writing your book. And
Right.
so I come to you guys. What's the process if I'm a new author and I want to work with you guys? And what would you guys do with me? Walk me through the process real quick.
It's like, do you want to publish?
Like, yeah, if I want to publish my book, I'm okay. Let's give a hypothetical real quick, a little role
Yeah.
playing.
Okay.
So, I come to you with my science fiction book,
Yep.
and I love talking on social media and doing all that stuff, but I've never actually published a book before, so that's really the only thing I have in terms of what I can do and provide right now.
Hmm.
Um, I need help with my cover. I need help with the editing. I need help with everything, but I would like to publish it under my name.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, I mean, I would kind of talk you through, uh, I would give you a sense of what we do. I mean, we could, we could copy edit your book for you. We've got, we've got a couple of great copy editors. Um, we can do all the production for you. We can design your cover. We can do your interior. We can create an ebook for you. Um, and we can then get all that set up so that the book is available everywhere that people buy books online, right? That's sort of like, and so that tends to be very straightforward, that piece of the process. We can take your manuscript, um, from manuscript to print book available for for sale. But then everything after that is more in the it depends category. And so for given what you had told me, I would recommend a few things. I would say, if you don't already have an author website, we can build you a simple author website that would allow you to have a presence online. So you become a thing, right? So when people start to Google you to find out about you, you're a thing. You're not just some random dude or dudette, right? Um, that's something that we can build for you. We can also uh, do an Amazon promotion for you. That's one thing that we really like to launch out of the gates with our authors, is to do a giveaway where we give away the ebook, um, to get the book into the hands of readers so that we can kickstart word of mouth. So we do these giveaways. It's something I talked about on the Book Ninja Summit, but we do these giveaways where we'll promote the book. We run a giveaway, but then we also promote the giveaway. So we can get at least 2,000 people downloading your book. And then we consider that to be sort of like a market test. And we find that we're going to find out, do people like it? Does the book have legs? And if we're getting at least 2,000 people to download it and people like it, you're going to get a ton of customer reviews on Amazon and you're going to start getting indirect sales because people are going to start talking about it. So that's one thing we like to kick off. We also like to run virtual book tours for people where we can get them, featured on book blogs and also by social media influencers. Um, so those are kind of the big promotional things that we would do. In terms of platform, um, we can run sort of, we can give you, especially since you said you're comfortable in social media and you like doing social media. We'll do like a social media launch kit where we'll figure out, okay, given your book, given your interests, given your proclivities, we think this social media strategy is gonna be the best for you. These platforms, XYZ, and we think this kind of content would be the best. And that's all based on you, right? We want to kind of talk to you, figure you out. We'll go in there and set up the channels that need to be set up. If they're already channels set up, we'll optimize them. And then we'll put together sort of like a tools and templates kit that you can use to run your social media, from here on out. But it's very much a DIY kind of thing.
Yeah, I like
So
like
for
like the sound of that. As I'm thinking about using you guys to publish my book, that for me just gives me a sense of like, okay, he's not trying to sell me on everything, the whole entire package. Like
nope,
because I like to do social media, you guys are kind of giving authors basically the
yep,
DIY package. Hey, here's our recommendations. This is what you should do for social media.
100%, 100%. And then and I start to tell really, I can usually tell pretty quickly what people are going to need, what they aren't. And I never want people to spend money on something they don't need. It
Yeah,
just doesn't
that
make any sense.
that's
'Cause, you know, why?
especially for self-published authors who might be on a budget, right?
Exactly. People are going to be on a budget. You've got to spend money on you got to save your money to spend it on the things you really need. And then you're going to have to DIY something, right? And it probably shouldn't be cover design,
Yeah.
right?
We talked to Laura Duffy. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's the cover designer, and
Oh, cool.
some of her covers like are just whoa, like that you can tell that it's a professional, and you can tell who's not a professional.
Yep.
So yeah. One other question. What was it? Oh, so I'm an author that wants to get my hands dirty, and I come to you guys. Could I just say, hey, I just need help with Facebook ads and Amazon ads. Can you guys help me with that?
Yeah. So we're totally a la carte,
Okay.
right? If it's a service that we offer, we'll give it to you a la carte. Does that make sense? Um, Facebook ads, Amazon ads, we're is something we're constantly experimenting with, on that specific topic. We have a new service that we're working with that'll do Google, social, and Amazon ads all kind of together. It's AI driven. And uh so we would be able to offer that service only for that.
Okay. So
Yep.
for authors out there that are looking to just kind of find one thing that they need help with, you guys are
Oh
there for
yeah.
them to.
Oh yeah. I mean, we have some people that'll come to us and some of these folks who maybe have published within our company, they'll literally just hire us to upload their files to self-publishing platforms. They already have their cover designed, and sometimes it's great. They already have their interior, they already have their ebook, they have everything. They just need someone to set it up, and they're intimidated by the setup process, which they could do
Technical.
on their
Hmm.
own, but it's intimidating and you can make mistakes. And so they just hire us to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. All
Yeah,
right. We're kind of I like to try and keep them to 30 minutes, but every time we go 40 to 50 minutes, and I just can never condense it into 30 minutes because there's always so much information. But
sure.
I
Yeah,
do kind of want to wrap up with two things. So first is a quick little lightning round. So I'm going to give you a sentence
yeah.
and just finish the sentence with one or two words.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is the most important lesson I've learned about publishing is
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
when I first started launch my book, I wish I had known.
That's a tough one. Uh, I wish I had known to hire carefully.
That's a good one. One marketing strategy that has significantly increased authors' book sales is
Amazon giveaways.
in 10 years, I see the world of self-publishing.
Growing? Sorry, that's a boring
I'll
answer.
take it. I'll take it. I mean, it's gonna happen. I feel like growing is a perfect word for that. Um, yeah, sometimes with these finish the sentences, the other person will give like a really long answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Where can people? We've talked about launch my book. How can people get in touch with you?
Oh, just come to our website, launchmybook.com. And you can sign up to book a phone call with me. You can also just call me directly, or you can email me, or you can text me.
And
All
do you
our
guys have
contact information is available.
social media?
Oh yeah, and we're all on all the socials. Well, a lot of the socials. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We have a company profile, but there's also my profile. And we publish content every week. And our content is things like this. We like to just either do interviews with people, conversations with people, or just helpful tools like, you know, how to optimize your Amazon profile, how to, set yourself up on Ingram Spark. It's very practical tools that we offer people.
Yeah, I did. I took a peek at your YouTube channel, just perused it real quick. There are a couple of videos that I need to click on and watch. So definitely some good stuff over there.
Thank
But
you.
thank you so much, Joel, for chatting with us and
Yeah.
being a sponsor of the Book Ninja Summit. For those of you guys that weren't there, they were a platinum sponsor of our Book Ninja Summit event. But yeah, thanks, and I hope we can chat soon.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. It was a really nice conversation, Brett. Appreciate it.